Tonight's installment of In a Nutshell is brought to you by Dockers North Restaurant and Lounge, where you'll enjoy fabulous food in a family-friendly atmosphere. Good day, and how in the heck are you? My name is Al Weissman, and this show is called In a Nutshell. Today we have the great good fortune to have a very special guest join us on In a Nutshell. Today's guest is a musician known for having been a founding member and frontman of an incredibly famous and successful Chicago garage band by the name of the Ides of March back in the 60s, which, by the way, over 50 years later, the Ides of March are still performing and still touring with the original 4 members and a few additional members that were picked up along the way.
When Mom was being discharged from the hospital, Dad was very happy that he called Oracle Home Health, because Mom was homebound.
When it's time for in-home care, Oracle Home Health brings quality and compassion to your home. With Oracle Home Health, an RN will customize a plan of care to meet Mom's needs.
Because Mom deserves to be home, relaxing in her own bed.
Call 224-470-5130. Take advantage of quality home care with Oracle Home Health. The Ides of March are prominently known for songs like You Wouldn't Listen, L.A. Goodbye, and not least of all, Vehicle, among others. Later in his career, today's guest collaborated with the band 38 Special with smashing success, including songs like Caught Up in You, Hang On Loosely, and Rockin' Into the Night, to name a few. Today's guest was also a member of the band Survivor, where our guest co-wrote hits like The Search Is Over, Is This Love, High on You, I Can't Hold Back, and the tune which eventually gained worldwide attention, everlasting fame, and deep in the hearts of practically everybody you're ever going to meet, the song that our guest co-wrote for the movie Rocky III called The Eye of the Tiger, without doubt one of the most popular songs ever.
So this is one of my proudest possessions. It's the Grammy that Frankie Sullivan and I received for Eye of the Tiger back in 1982. And I'm going to do the song that earned us this Grammy for you right now. Thanks for listening. You've got the Eye of the Tiger. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happens too fast. You change your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the past. You must fight just to keep them alive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our face, out in the heat, 2, 3, 4.
Beautiful. Thank you so. He has written and co-written I don't know how many songs for a myriad of singers and groups. He is the co-author of the acclaimed and highly successful book Songwriting for Dummies, which is now in its second printing, volume
Third now.
third.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
In 7 languages.
Wow.
Songwriting, universal language, the song.
Yeah, sure. He is also the author of his highly informative autobiography, Through the Eye of the Tiger, of which we have my well-worn copy right with us today. And I would, in fact, ask our guest, who's sitting next to me, if he would please inscribe his name somewhere in this book so we could have that.
I sure will. I love the fact that it's all dog-eared and stuff. That means you read it.
I read it twice.
All right. So to Al and Delores, or just to Al?
To Al and Delores.
Oh, that's a good marriage right there. You know the rules to play by.
Yes.
Yeah.
Won't you have a beverage with me?
Would you like to hear my new song?
I would love to hear your new song.
My favorite restaurant has a first name. It's Dokers. My favorite restaurant has a second name. It's North. Oh, I love to eat here every day. And if you ask me, I will say Dokers. North is the best. Sorry, Grandpa.
I could sit here for hours every day. I write 1,000 words and throw them all away.
He is the mentor to many aspiring singers and musicians. His songs have garnered 18 top 10 Billboard spots, have sold over 30 million copies. That's a lot of copies. Earning him a Grammy, a People's Choice Award, an Oscar nomination for Rocky, right? Rocky 3, and multiple gold and platinum RIAA commendations. And by the way, can I have one of those records, the gold one?
We'll talk. We'll talk. Have your agent call my agent. Take a photo.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are in Lenin's Den, and not Vladimir, I'm sure.
No, different Lenin, spelled differently.
All right. And it is my huge pleasure to introduce today's guest, Jim Peterik, originally of Berwyn, Illinois, now of the world. And we welcome him in a nutshell.
Thank you, Al. What a great introduction. Delores, how you doing? Yeah, Lenin's Den. This started with a flood in the basement. It was just your typical boring basement with a ping pong table and a couple of chairs.
Okay.
And we had a flood. And insurance gave us, a whopping $12,000, which was cool. But then we went on beyond that, many dollars beyond that, to create Lenin's Den, and no more ping pong table.
No more ping pong table.
Yeah.
Now there's a very beautiful board, a sound board, a drum room.
We love it. This started out to be Colin Peterik, my son's studio. And then he moved on, and he's now in a 4,000 square foot place called the Jam Lab in Brookfield. And he's doing great on his own as a recording engineer, mentor, co-producer, singer-songwriter. Of course, I'm kind of proud of him.
Yes.
And he plays in my band, the Storm Chasers, which is my kind of Americana roots band, where I reinvent my biggest hits and some new ones in a very different kind of Nashville setting with upright bass and mandolin,
Cool.
dobro, pedal steel. It's not really country as much as roots. So I'm also touring with that ensemble, and Colin is the keyboard man.
Very cool. Very cool. And some of the guests that we've had on our show have actually worked with Colin in his studio, so then they have nothing but nice things to say.
Yeah, he's a good kid, and I'm a granddaddy thanks to
Congratulations.
he and Meredith. And little Maisie is 16 months old.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's a great kid. I'm a proud purple grandpa. I don't know, my dad at 67 didn't look like this, It's really funny. people say, "Oh, I love your purple hair." I said, "Well, if I didn't have it, I'd be white."
That's right. I'm sure of that. Yeah.
Or gray, or somewhere. I never want to find out, basically, what's underneath that.
I read your book, Through the Eye of the Tiger, The Rock and Roll Life of Survivor's founding member. And in your book, you mention that Don Barnes, one of the members of the band 38 Special, was watching the Dinah Shore show on television and heard one of the guests on the show being given some advice about her marriage, that she should hang on loosely.
Hold on loose.
Hold on loosely.
Yeah. It's funny, Don only told me the real story about a year ago.
Really?
Yeah. And it was always, man, Don, that was really cool. How'd you come up with that? Oh, I don't know. Finally, he came clean and said, Dinah Shore said it. I want to Google that and see if we can find the show.
Oh, yeah.
That would be really funny. She said, well, I guess you just got to hold on loosely. And when he said that, this is the very first time we got together to write, which became a long-standing relationship. In fact, we're still writing. We're doing a new album with 38, where I fly down to Atlanta, and we're writing some really, really good stuff. But we sat around my kitchen counter in LaGrange. I lived in LaGrange at that time. And the first time when you write with someone, it's always kind of like a blind date. It's a little awkward. And thank God that my wife Karen made nachos, and that kind of broke the ice,
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and then I think
nachos always help break the ice.
I think so. And then I think we had a beer, and that really broke the ice.
Okay, I can see that.
And finally, Don Barnes says, "Well, I got a title." I go, "Well, let's hear it." He goes, "Hold on loosely." And I go, "Holy, I love that." Then my mind went back to the time when I was dating Karen, and I was going a little too fast, maybe, getting a little too intense. And she said, "Jim, just back off." And so that experience kind of informed the whole lyric of "Hold on loosely, but don't let go. If you hold too tightly, you're going to lose control." And the song just seemed to write itself. And of course, Jeff Carlisi, who's no longer with the band, he started playing. I go, wow, let's put all that together. And about, through the nachos and a beer, we had the basic of a song. And I usually go off on my own to work on lyrics, so they were just kind of goofing around. I went in the back room, and I started working on this lyric. I like to get alone for a while, and I came out, here it is, and they loved it. Sent it to their manager, and Mark Spector said, this is a #1. And it was.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic song. Good work. My question is, does Dinah Shore know about it?
No.
Has she requested royalty?
Oh, man. Maybe her estate did it. We'll have to call her attorney and find out. But no, you can't copyright a title. Okay. Thank God.
Yeah, that's true.
Won't you have a beverage with me? I'm chilling by the deep blue sea. I'm just sitting in my sand, not a worry on my mind, just drinking beer and having a time. Won't you settle down for a while? I'm wearing a guitar and a smile, catching sunbeams and fishing for dreams. So won't you have a beverage with me?
Okay. Now you play guitar, ukulele, keys. Do you play other instruments?
Bass. Saxophone was my first. Well, piano was my very first. When I was 7 years old, I took 2 years of piano lessons before I said, I'm sick of playing scales. I know enough now to get around. I was never a schooled musician, but in 4th grade, I picked up the sax for the grade school band. My dad was a sax player. He played in a local band called the Hi-Hatters. Polkas, standards,
Sure.
He was super good. Not a schooled musician, played by ear, couldn't read music, but he had an ear. And man, when I was old enough finally to go to shows with him, or gigs, or jobs as they used to come, hey, we got a job tonight, you want to come? So I would come and tag along and sneak up on the bandstand and do a little harmonizing with my dad, And then we'd all go out to White Castle. I was like 10 years old, living the dream with the real dudes, man.
Nice.
Eating sliders and feeling really grown up.
Oh, that's nice.
It was fun.
That's a great relationship.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing guy.
So are there any instruments that you don't play?
I stay away from drums. Nobody wants to hear me play drums. I have 2 left feet, and it's not a pretty thing.
Okay, all right. In your book, I clearly get the impression of you as a nice, decent, down-to-earth guy. No one is perfect, but it seems that for the most part you avoided strong intoxicants and philandering, often associated with rock and roll stars. We have interviewed other musicians on this show who were prominent in the 60s through the 70s, who told us stories about jumping off the swimming pool from the 3rd floor balcony and all that kind of stuff. And I was wondering, did you ever get that rock star urge to smash up a hotel room or anything similar to that?
Never.
Never.
I never could understand this. I am not a destructive guy. You know, I never saw the lure of that. You know, when there was that going on, I would just stay far away from it, go to my room with my guitar and try to write a good song.
Wow.
That was my release. That was my escape. Ides of March were really by the books. You know, I tell a story in my book about being invited to a party with Led Zeppelin after we opened for them in Winnipeg, which was one of the best shows of our lives because we did so good. And Led Zeppelin just kind of had an off night. And they were out of tune, and they had a bad night. They had a bad attitude.
Oh.
You know, because the PA was bad. We're used to bad PAs in those days, you know.
Sure. You're from Chicago.
Right. We cobbled together a couple of dual Showmans. That was our PA, you know. So we were invited to this party, and we walk in, and Robert Plant says, "Oh, welcome, guys," you know, and he had his little bikini briefs on, and we look past him, and we see this, basically an orgy, you know, going on, and all sorts of substances being ingested, and booze, and groupies, and I look at Larry and Mike and Bob, and we go, "See ya." And we went across the street. There happened to be a Dunkin' Donuts, and we were back in our comfort zone.
There you go.
And we loved it. And maybe that's why we're still here, still playing. I played last night with the Ides at City Winery, and I got, oh man, it was killer. We did a 2-set format. First set was unplugged, where we like to tell stories and do things in a more sensitive way. It really shows off the harmonies of the band. And we took a break and come back roaring with the brass and the heavier guitars, and the place was packed.
Super. Very cool. Now, people know who you are. People recognize you when you're out in public, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't just blend in, you know, at the supermarket.
How do you go out to buy underwear or, you know, something to eat at the grocery store?
Well, it's funny because I shop at Brookhaven. Ding, 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 ding. Maybe I'll get a free filet or something.
Yeah. Are you listening, Brookhaven?
It's a great place. And I like it because it's less expensive than the other places. Anyway, I'm still a bohunk at heart from Berwyn. But it's really funny when I go with Karen, I've stopped doing that because people want photos. People want to say hello. Very, very nice people. But when she was picking out broccoli, it was kind of a distraction.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Know? And it started kind of bothering her, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her. She likes her privacy. Me, I signed up for this program. You know, I knew that if I ever got famous, you're going to give up some privacy, and that's what you want because that means people like what you're doing. So now I go shopping alone, and she gives me a list, and I get it.
Very good. That's a good way to resolve it.
It
sure.
is.
The couples that resolve these kinds of differences stay together.
That's right. We're going on 49 years.
Oh, man, congratulations.
September.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
We met at a Turtles concert, standing in line to see our favorite band, the Turtles. And she was with her girlfriends, and I was alone because I was too chicken to ask anyone for a date. I was very shy, believe it or not, in those days. And so I went alone, and I came early, and it was one of those first come, first served lines, you know, and I'm standing there looking at this girl that just, they were all cute, the girls she was with, but this girl was special, you know. And I said, well, she's way out of my league. I'll never talk to her. And she turns around to me and said, aren't you Peterik? Her exact words. I said, yeah. Yeah, I am. And she said, well, I just saw the Ides of March when you opened for the New Colony 6 at Morton West. You guys were awesome.
Nice.
There is a God.
Very cool. You know, I saw that when we were talking about Hold On Loosely, that you kind of like were itching to. Do you feel like playing the tune?
I would mind. Let's see if I can sing, Al.
Okay.
Now, if I can't, this goes out.
Okay.
I'll do a verse and a chorus.
Okay.
All right, we'll see how this goes. So far, so good. You see it all around you, good loving gone bad. And usually it's too late when you realize what you had. My mind goes back to the girl I met long years ago, who told me just hold on loosely, but don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you're gonna lose control. Your baby needs someone to believe in, and a whole lot of space to breathe in. Hold on loosely, but don't let go. No. Not too bad.
Not too bad. Most of us have seen Jim Peterik in concert one time or another, live or on television. We have our own memories of you and your songs. What's it like to be you?
Well, I'm living the dream. I mean, I really am. And I feel like the luckiest person on earth, for real, you know, because I do what I love, and that's music. And I'm working with some of my heroes, you know, not only the Cornerstones, which is a real blessing, and we're all just, you know, so tight. But also now I'm writing with Dennis DeYoung for his new record.
Nice.
One of my heroes, you know, one of the best vocalists, one of the most distinctive vocalists ever. As soon as you hear Dennis, you know it's Dennis,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I'm working with Brian Wilson still with the Beach Boys.
Nice.
Joe Thomas and Larry Millis were kind of a writing team with Brian.
You worked with Brian in the past.
Yeah. Larry, Joe, myself, and Brian wrote That's Why God Made the Radio, which was a big hit in 2012. We performed it on you know, Leno and Letterman and all the shows, and I went to see them at the Chicago Theater. This was the Beach Boy reunion tour called That's Why God Made the Radio. And I'm still pinching myself going, I'm writing with Brian Wilson.
Let's go.
I mean, to me, that's when I was growing up, it was the Beatles and the Beach Boys. And they were both, to me, almost equally good. I mean, the Beatles, you know, they really set the bar, but the Beach Boys weren't far behind.
Sure.
And so I'm writing with them, and 38 Special, that's come back together.
That's nice.
And I wake up in the morning and I do what I want to do. I go to the piano. I'm a morning guy, believe it or not. And I get some of my best song ideas sitting at the grand piano upstairs, just kind of doodling and kind of closing my eyes and wondering what's going to come. And that's great. And of course, I have the backstop of one of the greatest wives in my life that is so supportive.
It's so important.
You know, and yet she's nobody's fool. She'll call me out when I'm messing up, and she's, you know, or I'll play her a song, and she said, you know, Jim, that's good, but I think you can do better. And I'll be, I'm like wounded, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, I take her input and I weigh it out, and a lot of times it's really valid. She's not a musician, like physically, but she's very musical, has a great ear. So when she says something, I tend to listen.
Sure,
you know?
That's great.
And then Colin and Meredith, you know, Colin, he was kind of like a surprise because we didn't think we could have children. And he went through all sorts of tests, and then we gave up, and a year later, boom, Colin.
Isn't that how it happened?
Isn't that right? You give it up to the greater power, and he gives you some gifts.
That's nice.
So he was a real blessing, and it changed my life. And luckily, about that time, I was getting off the road. I left Survivor in '96, and then Colin came along in '98. So it was really a good symmetry of all that, you know. So I'm a lucky guy.
Very good. You are a lucky man. You were a wonderful guest, very engaging, very intelligent, very fun to talk to and hang out with for an hour or two.
Well, it was my pleasure.
Oh man, I really enjoyed it.
Now I'm going to go take a nap.
Go ahead. Next week on In a Nutshell.
This is a song called Little White Lighter. It's followed me around all over the place, and it's a traveling song about a lighter. And it's one of my most requested, so here we go.
Tonight's installment of In a Nutshell is brought to you by Dockers North Restaurant and Lounge, where you'll enjoy fabulous food in a family-friendly atmosphere.
On a tightrope weaving, for the first time in a long time, and I love the feeling. Run away on a freight train, dancing in a warm rain, washing down with a love that I can't believe it. You got me dreaming. Running in place, I was doing my best. Never put much stock in tomorrow, I guess.